Ooh.
Got a lot of people coming in, so give it a couple more minutes.
I'm really excited about this one. I
Yeah,
finally feel like my months and years of travel are paying off in the form of being able to give back a little bit here.
totally. So important. Hello, everybody.
We'll probably kick off right around 1:03 if you're here with me on the West Coast. 3 minutes after the hour or so. Conscious of everyone's time. So long as that doorbell keeps ringing.
I know.
It's always awkward when you're like, we're going to wait for more people and then
I know.
nobody else joins.
Okay. All right. I think it's slowed down a little bit.
All right, I will get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Hilary Gleason. I'm one of the co-founders and executive director of Backline. I also have been doing festival season for about 15 years now in a bunch of different capacities, from being 18 years old, camped 2.5 miles away from Centeroo at my first Bonnaroo, to having worked all sorts of different festivals, shown up with bands at festivals, and kind of have seen how it can look from a bunch of different sides. I also travel pretty much nonstop now, and so I'm going to be sort of facilitating this workshop, but also want you all to know that your insights, feedback, tips, and tricks are more than welcome here. This is by no means a comprehensive workshop. It's about as comprehensive as we could get it from the backline side of things. But if you have lived experience, things that work for you, feel free to either raise your hand or drop them in the chat. We will ask you to mute yourselves if you're not talking, just so we can flow through this. As with anything Backline, we are recording this session. If you say something that you would like to keep confidential, would like to keep off the recording that gets uploaded to YouTube, just say that before you get in, and we'll make sure it gets cut out before it goes anywhere public. This is meant to be a very safe space for you to ask questions, grow, and learn together. So use this workshop as you see fit to benefit yourselves. And, just by showing up, you're saying that you're excited to, do festival season potentially better, differently, learn something about how to approach it. So that is all telling me that you are curious about mental health and wellness as it pertains to life on the road. So again, I'm Hilary. Raise your hand or jump in the chat with any questions. Pooja from Backline is going to help me moderate as I'll be sharing screen. So Pooja, feel free to jump in if I don't see something in the chat.
Great.
And I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I'm way deep in this presentation. All right. Festival season readiness. It always seems like it sneaks up on me, but we are deep into festival season already for some of us. And I also encourage you, if you're just a touring person, if you're not planning to go to any festivals this summer, this is also going to apply to you. So stay tuned. There's just a lot to talk about and learn here today. So as we talk about festival season and what it means, here are some things that came to my mind. It's often more travel per week and more re-entry between gigs and home than you have on tour. So sometimes you might be coming home 2, 3, 4 times a week. We're definitely going to be talking about reentry here today. It's a super important part of this whole flow. It also means more exposure to people. So energies, more exposure to fans. Oftentimes they will find you in the food line at the festival and chat you up, tell you what they thought about your album, about your set, any of those things. More exposure to germs, of course, and just a lot of other sensory input that you don't have generally. Even in a regular tour dynamic, you can be behind the stage in the green room. That's often less possible at festivals. So be prepared to see and experience and interact with a lot more, which is, I think, part of why we love festivals, but also can leave you with feeling super depleted, like you've put a lot of energy out there or had a lot of interaction. So this also means disruption of regular routines. Even in touring, you can find regular routines and being in a different city every day. Festival season, it is truly something different every time you set out for it. So there's obviously a party atmosphere at a lot of festivals, and we'll speak to some of that for those of you who are sober in the room. Welcome you to share your insights and what you've learned about festival season with us. There's also a lot less control, limited sound checks, limited privacy. You don't necessarily control who has access to your green room, all of those things. So festival season is practicing the art of letting go. But hopefully what we talked through today gives you a sense of control and a sense of preparedness, at least for yourself and your band, as we get into this. Also want to shout out that some of the folks in the room may not be coming at it from the artist or crew side, but might be working on site at festivals themselves. So we're trying to make this as broad-based as possible, but there might be some pieces that speak to you, some pieces that don't. Take from this what you will. All of these different things that we've covered already hit a bunch of different categories: emotional, physical, and of course, musical. So we're going to kind of use those categories as a guide for how we walk through how can you set yourself up for success and what does that feel like. Okay, so how to prepare. We are about to talk through packing lists and first aid kit. That's been a huge help to me, just knowing that I have everything that I could possibly need and don't have to seek out a drugstore in a random city. Also, as you're looking to prepare, I think it can be really holistic, like spend some time journaling. What would I like to, come out of this festival season feeling? How can I maintain my energy? Maintain my routines that work for me, reconsidering your rider. If you are playing 3 festivals in a weekend and you have hummus on your rider every day, probably by day 3, you're going to be not as excited to eat hummus. So what can you substitute on some of your riders to make sure that you're getting a variety of fresh, healthy foods that you are excited to eat and don't have to seek out the festival food options, unless, of course, that's something that you're excited about. Food options at festivals vary greatly, from rider only to backstage catering. That varies a lot. I've seen the best of the best and the bag of chips. So there's a lot of variety. If you've been to the festival before, you might have an idea of how excited you are about catering or not. If you have a tour manager, they might have more intel on the food that you are going to be able to have access to during the weekend. If you don't, think about that rider as sort of, that's your lifeline to the healthy necessities that you need to get through that weekend. Finding movement and routines that can go with you anywhere, I think, is a super important part of this. I love to walk because I know I can do that in any place that I might find myself in the music industry. Same thing goes for hotel room stretches, yoga, those kinds of things, figuring out what modalities work for you, which ones you maybe are able to knock off in the morning, so that box is already checked on your list and you can go about your day and feel like, all right, at least I did something for myself this morning. And then, of course, encourage everyone to wear a mask when possible. Planes, trains, and public transportation can help you lessen that exposure to germs. It's your choice, of course, whether or not you want to wear a mask at all. You can also wear a mask on site at festivals if that's your comfort level, but do encourage you to see airplanes and public transportation as a huge opportunity, and one in which you can really try and protect yourself by wearing that mask. First aid kit. This is the part I'm most excited about. And we are going to make these lists available to y'all coming out of this. We're going to make them a public resource on Backline so you can grab them. But I have a first aid kit that I bought at the Dollar Tree several years ago, and it has gone in my suitcase no matter where I've traveled to since then. So this list is very much based on my own list. And then I've checked in with a bunch of other people about like, what am I missing here? It has like all sorts of compartments and stuff. You'll see my lacrosse ball is in there. And I'm just going to start kind of talking through some of these different pieces here, because I think it's really interesting as I've started to get into supplementation. That's been something that's been really, really helpful for me on the road. So of course, immunity boosting supplements and vitamins. B complex is great for that sort of post-festival fatigue that you might feel. Vitamin C helps a lot with immunity. Elderberry and zinc. I think as far as immunity blend goes, it's really a personal journey to figure out what works in helping keep you from getting sick, but also what helps you bounce back. For some people, that is elderberry and zinc. For some people, it doesn't work as well. So you know yourself best here, but generally, vitamin C, elderberry, and zinc complex should help you to boost your immunity and feel better. There are great tinctures and products on the market like Kick-Ass Immune. I don't have Kick-Ass Immune right now because I downed it all, but I have from the same brand, Wish Garden Herbs, their Horse Whisper, which has been hugely helpful to me as a throat spray. In here, I also have pain relievers of different kinds. So ibuprofen, I have Dayquil, I have NyQuil. Stomach stuff, I think, is super variable at festivals based on catering and festival food options, of course, but a lot of people just get vacation stomach, and that could look a couple of different ways, but I think having some things in your first aid kit that can help you with stomach issues is really helpful. So that might be Pepcid and Tums. Imodium is great if you get spontaneous diarrhea and you have to play a set and stop that immediately to be able to get through the day. That's something that I found really helpful to have on you. And I haven't had to use the Imodium, but sure enough, people around me have, right? And so kind of like I'm now the mom in my groups where people come to me knowing that I have all of these different things. If you do feel like you have a variable stomach while you're touring and traveling, one of the things that really helps is fiber. Just helps to keep you regular. I have sticks that go in a water bottle or a cup of water. So it's not a huge product to bring with you. This is Benefiber. Over-the-counter allergy medications and decongestants are really helpful, as well as bug spray, after bite, Benadryl cream, that kind of thing. I don't know if anybody's ever been bitten or rashed up by something weird at a festival, but it's kind of the last thing that you want to happen. As we get into throat stuff, obviously for our vocalists in the room, you may have tips and tricks that you want to drop in the chat. But I am using Horse Whisper often. I also have a chloroseptic throat spray, helps to kind of numb it out if you have a really bad sore throat. I've got throat coat tea and Alka-Seltzer packets. Mimi, I know you know this one. There's a compound in Alka-Seltzer that when you gargle it, actually affects your vocal cords and can help keep you from losing your voice or can help to bring your voice back. So gargling Alka-Seltzer has become a game changer for me. What else? Oh, sleep and muscles. Magnesium is an amazing supplement that can really help with sleep. It also helps with muscle fatigue. So tired legs, tired feet, all that stuff. I take Calm gummies. This is their travel size, which is kind of crazy because it's still giant. But magnesium comes both in supplement form. You can take a pill, you can take a gummy. It also comes in balm form. So you can put the balm on your feet, on your legs, really helps. And there are a lot of new studies coming out now that magnesium also really helps with depression and anxiety. So as I'm taking my Calm gummies as sort of part of my nighttime routine to fall asleep, that also helps me the next day in maintaining like my lifestyle and not feeling the effects of depression and anxiety quite as much. I'm a huge believer in this. And then, of course, the lacrosse ball goes with me everywhere. Really good for like getting a knot out of your back, using it on your feet in those like really sore and tender parts. I also encourage you to like figure out a muscle relief balm that works for you. Mine is very spicy tiger balm. If you know, you know. For some people, this is going to be way too intense and you're going to want something that feels more soothing and less like your body is on fire where you put this on. This also works great as a decongestant because of the menthol in it. You can use that to clear out your sinuses, kind of smell it like a Vicks Vapo Rub style thing. There's more in here, tampons, Band-Aids, all the stuff. It's a really good practice. And for me, if I run out of something in my first aid kit, it goes into the note on my phone, what I need to re-up on the next time I'm home. But I know that I will not need to go out and seek something, ask Artist Hospo to go on a wild goose chase for that Band-Aid or whatever you need. It gives me a lot of peace of mind to just be able to throw that into my suitcase. Some of my other supplements are a little bit larger, so they just go in like a plastic bag with me. I take oil of oregano as part of my immunity routine. That has a giant thing of ibuprofen in it, probiotics, which also help with stomach stuff. It seems like a lot, but it doesn't take up very much space in my pack. And then this also feeds into my sense of routine on the road. So I'm waking up, sort of inventorying my body. Do I need to use the lacrosse ball? Do I need to stretch? Do I need to get some fiber in because I haven't had a vegetable in the past 5 days? Which unfortunately that just happened to me when I was in New Orleans for Jazz Fest. You're somewhere where you're like eating and drinking like crazy. And oh, all of a sudden I haven't like really been feeding my body in the way that I generally do. And you start to feel that. So I find mindfulness in the morning and at night to be a really helpful technique. And then to have everything on hand that you might want to use to kind of tweak how you feel or how you might feel the next day. I know that's a crazy packing list for slide one, but it's something that I hope you all will think about, like, maybe it's a redacted version, maybe it's a very small first aid kit of the things that you know that you need, but it's been really helpful for me. Packing list, of course, considering what climates you're in, having like all weather readiness in your suitcase with you. So that means hot weather stuff, layers, rain gear, good shoes. You know, people often forget to bring a hat or a bandana. And so as you're looking at the festivals that you're playing and sort of what your routing looks like, consider the unexpected. Might there be a dust storm or something and everyone has a bandana that they're wearing throughout the festival, but you, right? You don't want to be stuck in a situation like that. So I love to have just a packing list with like all of the different things that I might want to consider, and then using your upcoming dates as your guide. Travel necessities, of course, like those masks for you to wear on the plane or at the festival, extra chargers, which are a pain to get, particularly like computer chargers or gear chargers where you can't just buy one at 7-Eleven. Making sure that you have everything in a way where it's organized, in a way where in the hotel room, you're not going to forget to grab it. Laundry pods and soap sheets are really helpful depending sort of how long you're out for. Some folks are just going out for the specific festivals that weekend. Some folks are in the studio in between festivals, really looking again at that calendar as sort of, will I need to do laundry on this run? Having pods or soap sheets or quarters or whatever it is that you need to do laundry on that is super helpful. So again, you're not spending time looking for those items, you just have them and you're ready to go. Work equipment and spares, of course, like thinking about how many things you might go through. So whether that is strings, picks, USBs for the DJing folks, how many of those do you need? How many backups do you need? How many might you go through, lose along the way? Can really help save you time and stress while you're out there. I always travel with snacks, including high protein options, never knowing when you're going to get delayed in an airport or get to the hotel later than food is available. Some folks travel with candles or essential oils to be able to have that same scent in every location that they land. That's really helpful for like smell memory and trying to create like a comfortable place for you to be. Eye masks, really helpful for travel. There's a bunch of different varieties out there. Earplugs, so the sleeping kind, the listening to music at a live show kind, and your in-ear monitors if you are an artist. So that's potentially 3 different kinds of earplug varieties. So, and then, kind of getting to know yourself again and diving into, okay, when I'm at home and I'm having a bad day, what do I do? How do I spend that time? Is that a coloring book? Is that doing skincare? Being able to figure out what it is that you can deploy for self-care while you're out on the road. I know folks that now travel with mini Theraguns if they're super prone to muscle aches and fatigue. That's something that goes in their bags. So a lot of this is plug and play for your individual journey. And again, we'll make these available to you online here in the next few days. But if you have anything that's on your packing list or in your first aid kit that I didn't cover, A, be surprised, and B, love to see it in the chat. Questions you should ask yourself as you're packing. What climates will I be in? What additional supplies might I need for those different climates? So if you're going to a dusty festival, a neti pot can be really helpful as part of your nighttime routine to clear yourself out and make sure that you're avoiding any of those throat or sinus issues. Again, that bandana, same thing. Additional skincare or additional pairs of socks if you're going to be in a rainstorm. Trying to figure out how accessible are groceries, coffee shops, whatever it is that's important to you while you're out there during this run. So for some festivals, they are way out in the middle of nowhere. It's harder for you to run and grab that snack or grab a coffee. So you might want to look into bringing your own coffee setup on the road, whether that's an AeroPress or something else. If you're a fancy coffee lover like me, that's something that I have to have. And sometimes the coffee options on site at festivals just aren't quite cutting it. So I have a Red Bull in my bag, something like that to deploy when you really need the caffeine. Again, it's going to depend on who you are and what your needs are, but understanding how close and accessible those things are can be really helpful in how much you need to plan ahead. Because if your hotel is right next door to a Target, great. No problem if you run out of something. But if you are truly on site, it's going to be harder for you to find them. And you might find yourself experiencing some discomfort that you can't quickly alleviate. And then also thinking through or talking through what other activities might there be outside of the festival that might affect you physically while you're out there. Are you going to be hiking, swimming, paddling, any of those things that happen during the summertime that you might want to be prepared for with an extra pair of shoes, socks, underwear, bathing suit, that kind of thing. Bring a lot of sunscreen too. I don't think I talked about that yet, but highly suggest. Wellness routines. So, oh, I see a little bit of activity in the chat. Ooh, a bougie hand grinder for coffee and an AeroPress. I'm all about that. And I think you've made me a festival coffee somewhere along the way. Vocal steamers. Love it. Awesome. If anyone else has anything that we should know about in the chat, we can still have time to add it to the packing list before we put it online. Movement. So wellness routines, again, finding something that works for you that's easy to accomplish every day gives you a sense of ownership in your life, even if you're traveling and you're not the driver during festival season. So walking, stretching, online workouts, as well as finding a time of day that works for you. Oftentimes that's going to be morning. But if you are a master tour user, or if you have your schedule from the festival in advance and you know, okay, I'm going to have a couple hour break during this time, and exercising really gives me energy to play the show or to, go to my shift, then that might be the right window for you. And then if you're going to commit to a more intensive workout plan, you're training for something, you're a weightlifter, that kind of thing, you might consider committing to a certain number of days per week and building this into your time blocking. Also helps, of course, to find an accountability partner, either on the road or at home, to say, I got my workout in, or, this is the thing that I'm most excited about. I don't think it just has to be, I got my workout in, but it's like, I like to send pictures of the flowers that I see when I go on my daily walks to my friends. So finding some sense of accountability in this movement process can really help you to get excited about it. And also practicing mindfulness after the activity has been completed. Take in all of those endorphins, give yourself a moment to really soak in that, because that's positive reinforcement for your body and wanting to build that as a habit. So if you're like, wow, I feel really energized, or I'm so excited to call my friend, or whatever it is that happens as a result of getting those endorphins and getting that movement in, hold on to that, give it, proper time to soak in so that you can be excited to go out and get that feeling again. Wellness routines are also super critical to me right now as I'm traveling. First and foremost, they can calm your nervous system and your adrenal system. That's going to help you to feel more relaxed, but also less reactive. So we're going to get into team dynamics here in a little bit. But I find that by doing my wellness routine in the morning or in the afternoon as needed, I'm a better friend. I'm a better employee. I'm, showing up as my full self and less reactive to the many things that life is going to throw at you. We talked about that big energy exchange and exposure at festivals already. I think having a wellness routine that gets you grounded can really, really help you kind of feel, okay, I'm ready to see fans and have the conversations that they want to have. Or I'm ready for a busy load-in day, whatever that looks like. So consider what your stressors are and what you are looking to improve on, whether that's emotional reactivity, feeling overwhelmed, upset, those kinds of things. And then I really encourage you to try some different modalities. So Backline has a section on our website under exclusive offers, where we have partners that offer free access to their subscription-based platforms. So that includes breathwork, yoga, meditation. We actually have a meditation course coming up in June with one of our practitioners, Emily Kessler. Some of you may have taken Emily's meditation course in the past. If you want to learn to meditate, there are free slots in that course available to the Backline community. It's been an absolute life-saving practice for me, and really encourage everyone to take advantage of that offer from Emily. But I'm also using breathwork now day to day, before meetings, before shows, as here's a 90-second or a 3-minute opportunity for me to catch my breath, quite literally, and also calm my nervous system and get ready for whatever is next. The breathwork app is absolutely phenomenal. They have all sorts of different breaths that you can take to focus. They have one called Panic Button, which is great if you're experiencing anxiety. They have them for sleep and wake up. So there's all sorts of different opportunities for me to use breath work during my day to kind of get my head set for whatever comes next. And I'm doing it all from my phone in a guided way. So there is no guesswork there for me with breath work. And that has been really phenomenal because it's so bite-sized that you can build it in during your day as much as you want to. A lot of, I think, what I was writing out for this comes down to mindfulness, including setting intentions. So setting an intention for each week or each weekend, however you want to break it down. I often set my intentions at the airport when I'm leaving for the first day. That includes what you want to accomplish, how you want to feel, and what you need to be conscious of. That includes substance use. So how do I want to engage with this festival? Do I want to set a bedtime for myself? Do I want to use this festival and kind of go have more fun than I can have at home, and experience the joy that can happen in these settings? Any way that you want to do it, there can still be an intention attached to that. And part of that can be I really want to show up and be the best that I can be at my job. Okay, well then how do you do that? And that will help you kind of dive into what are the wellness pieces, what are the movement pieces or the communication pieces that you need to really focus on as you're going into the weekend. Communication is a huge one. So we're going to get into more communication strategies with loved ones, whether they're at home or in different places around the country or the world. Having a strategy and a game plan for how you're checking in with them and what their support should look like or what you would like it to look like, and how you can also be providing that support to them. I think often many of us who are touring or working festivals, we need a lot of support, and it can be hard to give that same level of support to folks because our lives are constantly moving and we're in a bunch of different places. But again, I think being intentional about what's going on with you and how can I best support you, knowing that I'm out on the road and may not be able to check in at the same time every day, still, letting them know that your intention is to be supporting them in that way, I think is a great step. Goes hand in hand with finding a solid support system with someone who understands. That can be somebody who's out with you on the road or works the same festival as you. That could be somebody who has been there before and is not out with you, but has offered to be that kind of support system. Things look different if you are married, partnered, single in this. So again, sort of identifying what your current support system looks like, and if you have what you need there, or if you need to ask for more, or sort of identify someone in that larger support network to say hey, I could really use a buddy for this thing. big into nonviolent communication as much as I can be. There could probably be a whole nother workshop on nonviolent communication, but trying to separate what you observe from judgments of people. So if you do need to say to someone like, hey, you really need to like clean up your space in the tour bus or in the festival office, that can be separate from any other judgments around that person and what might be going on. It also can say, like, with nonviolent communication, and I encourage you to, look it up and do the Google deep dive on it, because I'm certainly not an expert in that area. But saying things like, when you leave your space messy, I feel overwhelmed, can be helpful in sort of like providing clarity about why you're bringing that topic up and why you need to come to a resolution. And then considering time blocking your calendar. This can be a super helpful tip, both for your time at home and your time on the road, for how you're going to tackle all of the different things that you want to around your intention for the week and what you want to accomplish. Let's see. Time blocking. This is nerdy stuff, so bear with me on this one. But it's been a really helpful practice for me. And again, as we're speaking to a broad group of people here, not everyone has master tour or a tour manager to tell them when and where they need to be. So often that responsibility falls on the individual. So first up, make sure your calendars are up to date with all your transportation details, confirmation numbers, phone numbers that you might need to call if your reservation isn't there. Understanding who booked the hotel, all of that stuff can be really helpful. Consider sharing a calendar with your partner or roommate so they know when you are planning to be away, when those flight times are, all those different pieces. And then also ask for help. If you are naturally, your brain doesn't work like this, or you have a hard time getting organized with calendars and to-do lists, completely fine to ask for help, either in the form of someone in your support system, or you might consider looking to bring on a life coach or someone from the Backline network to help you accomplish these different things and build these habits that are going to help you out. Time blocking is essentially just putting it all in your calendar, including whatever categories are most important to you. So some different categories that you could put in there: exercise, meditation, email time, travel time, show time, quality time. That could be spending time with your friends or your parents or your loved ones. Rest time, you don't have to put it in the calendar, but for those of us who might tend to work through any feelings of overwhelm, rest is also a really important thing. And sometimes I really do block it off in my calendar just to make sure that my brain goes, oh, the only thing I'm supposed to be doing right now is resting. And then also putting in your at-home to-dos. So if you know you need to clean your space or get rid of stuff in your closet or whatever, putting it in the calendar, it'll show up on your phone at that time and say closet clean out. Doesn't mean you have to do it at that exact time, but it is going to serve as a reminder for you. Same thing with paperwork, which I know many of us can put off easily because, oh, I'll do it when I get home from the next trip. And then the last thing that you want to do when you get home from that trip is do your paperwork. So really trying to think strategically of like, will I feel better if I get this done before I head out? Or does this make more sense for a Tuesday morning? And then putting it in the calendar can be really helpful in just feeling that forward progression of, okay, I am a real person who does more than just get on planes to go to festivals. And I've certainly felt that way before. And so I'm speaking from, the heart here when I say it's really easy to use this lifestyle as an excuse to not take care of other things in your life. But that also for me brings on a lot of feelings of overwhelm and depression. And so time blocking has been really helpful in just making sure these are all the things that I do need to take care of, and that there are times allocated for both. Troubleshoot. Not everything is going to work the first time you do it, including time blocking. So if you are getting those reminders on your phone and sure enough, you're not ever doing those things at the time when you thought you might want to do them, that's fine. Spend time with that feeling and identify, how you might be able to change those times. You might want to do paperwork at night. I don't, but sometimes I have accomplished those things at 10 p.m. at night rather than, in the middle of the day. So troubleshoot, and like anything, give yourself grace as you try to get through these new practices. Communication. Pooja, of course, if you want to speak at all during this piece, this is straight from your brain to paper. Communication with loved ones at home is a big thing that we talk about at Backline, and we also have a support group for partners of people in the music industry called Off the Road that meets on Thursdays. So we talk a lot about this stuff.
Yeah, I can jump in if you want to take a little break. Yeah, one of the big, of course, like Hilary was just saying, one of our main things that we discuss in Off the Road, which is a support group, a space for people who are in relationships, either on the road or off the road, to come and kind of have a space to be with others who are in similar situations. And we discuss various ways to communicate and, strategies, tips, ideas, work together to kind of support one another in that space. But yes, communication always, I think every single week comes up as one of the most important things, especially around the higher touring season, the higher travel times, especially just to kind of make sure that you and the person who's going away on tour can, be on the same page. Talking during working hours is such an important thing to kind of distinguish and kind of be clear about before maybe festival or tour starts, to say, these are the times that I will actually be free. I won't be doing sound check or busy with, other work or other rehearsal and all those things that come up. And just having really clear communication about those things, I think, can save a lot of people from having conflict while their partners or loved ones are on the road. I think it can be really helpful to just be as clear as you can about those things. FaceTime calls, I know as a partner of a touring musician and also being a parent, FaceTime is a huge thing for us and my family. Helps so much to just know that we can have at least one FaceTime call a day when we're all apart, and that can be, really, really helpful. The agreements is another huge thing. What are some things that we can decide to do that will be understood between us, that we can really say this is just a kind of a non-negotiable, and that'll make sure that we're again on the same page while we're traveling and another person is at home. So a call or text before going to sleep, I think, is a great way to just say that you're thinking of the other person. Of course, it can be a very late night for one person who may be traveling and an earlier night for someone who's at home. So those things, a call sometimes doesn't work, a text can be better, or whatever works for your family or for your partnership. Landing after a flight, I know some folks struggle more with anxiety around having their partners travel and flying and not knowing exactly when they're going to be landing, coming home, all that. I think just communication around that. And again, after a child's doctor's appointment, something like that is a great example of, one person who might be home being a parent and the other traveling, and that just kind of caters to the connection that can still be maintained while someone is away, and the interest and importance of, stuff at home still being relevant while there's other stuff going on. And yeah, an update of the day is always great, or even a couple of sentences classes, if you can't have an entire update, I think is really helpful. And yes, of course, good night text to the kids. Very, very, very helpful. It goes a long way around here. So these are all great.
Thank you, Pooja.
Mhm.
Plan ahead. So if you are traveling as part of a band or crew, finding the opportunities that you are going to meet and or rehearse and trying to plan those ahead, of course, is great. Again, put them in folks' calendars with the address and the specifics, so there are, you can limit the number of questions and sort of like delay on the day. This goes for anyone, festival crews included, like observing one another in a non-judgmental but compassionate way. So I am the number one fastest person to get hangry, right? And my friends know that about me. So they observe that and they're like, hey, have you eaten yet? And that's a compassionate way of telling me that I'm not pleasant to be around in the moment and should probably go eat. But, you know, asking one another how they want to be approached or held accountable to those things can really help to minimize conflict. So if you are in a tight-knit group of any variety while you're out there, talk to one another. Are you trying to eat healthier? Are you trying to exercise? You know, what are the things that you're all trying to do and how can you be supportive in that? I think that's also really helpful with bedtimes. Seems crazy to talk about bedtimes at our age, but that is something that still strikes fear in my heart. And if I know going into the weekend, okay, my friend and I are aligned that we're going to be in bed every night by 2 a.m. That's helpful because when the time approaches, you've already talked about it and you don't have to kind of like do that dance in the moment. It's something that you've already agreed to and you know how to communicate around it. Discussing success strategies with the folks around you, of course, but also with management, tour management, that kind of thing. You know, they can and should be helpful in these capacities. And so if you are looking to approach festival season in a different way than you've done before, making sure that other people know that and they are on your team in trying to achieve that. For folks in bands, consider setting a protocol for how you build set lists, building a rare song list. You know, sometimes you are just brain fogged and fatigued when it comes to playing that festival set. So those are some ways, if you know, this is how we always build the set list, or, hey, let's look at that rare song list or things we haven't played, that can help you to like be dynamic because of course we all want to show up as our best for the fans who have paid sometimes exorbitant amounts of money to show up to this festival. And this is the highlight of their whole summer. So as much as we can, we try and meet them there, which can be hard in this lifestyle for all of the reasons we've discussed before. Team dynamics. So this is a big one, particularly for bands, but also for your festival crews. Consider having a check-in with your crew to set intentions, share goals, and determine support. This is a great time to also discuss rules and expectations for the tour, including alcohol and drug use, personal space, hygiene, you know, really taking that time to be clear about what is and isn't acceptable. That's important because unless folks hear it flat out, there can be a lot of gray area there. So if there are certain expectations for your group, make sure that they're known. Often it's better to keep large, important conversations to scheduled times. This can go for both your partnership or your relationship or your band. If you know that you have to make a big decision, make sure that that time is scheduled and you're not just kind of talking about it as you go, because that gives everyone time and space to think about it and come prepared because they know you're going to talk about it on that specific date. And then consider building some shared language for support. So how can you make it easy for your teams to say, I need a break, I need time, I need an accountability buddy, figuring out what those different things are so that it's easy for folks to ask for what they need. I think often in this, you get really overwhelmed and fatigued. And for me, I sometimes lose the ability to ask for what I need in those moments. And so if it's normalized, that can be helpful in just sort of like cutting through any of the emotional things that might be holding me back from asking for those things. To just say like, I really need a buddy right now, or I really just need a listening buddy. That means like, just sit here while I talk about it. And I don't, that's different from I need advice. And being clear around those things can be really helpful. One of the bands that is part of the Backline community has provided this tour check-in list that they go through with their tour manager before they go on the road. This is also something we'll be making publicly available at Backline, but it's meant to be either a guided conversation with tour management, or if you tour manage yourselves, more power to you. And you can do this in any group setting. This is meant to just provide, some of the backstory and some context on how and why you might be showing up. So how's your general mood going into tour? What is something heavy or burdening from home that you're carrying coming into tour? That could be a sick family member, change in a relationship status, housing insecurity. Those kinds of things really will weigh on you while you're out on the road. But unless you make them sort of known to the other folks that you're with, they would be like, Hilary's really on one today. She's like being nasty. Well, no, Hilary also is dealing with X, Y, and Z and isn't always able to show up, as her best self because of these other things. So I think, this context can lead to more compassion for the folks that we're spending time with. I love this one, which is, what are you most excited about? Sometimes that's a certain restaurant in a certain city. And that's okay. That means everybody knows that that's your thing you're most excited for. Then you're going to make time and space for me to go there. Right. But that could also be like something else. And I think just also remembering these are meant to be joyful things that we're going through as we go through festival season. And I think sometimes we get stuck in the sludge, but even for yourself as a journal prompt, what are you most excited about going into this can be really just like bring you joy and that positivity that's going to help you carry through. What are you most concerned about? A very valid question, and one that sometimes there's a laundry list of things that you're concerned about, and that can be hard to vocalize unless it's normalized in the context of a conversation like this, where everyone has the opportunity to share what they're concerned about. And then again, how can we best show up for you when you're having a hard time? So encourage you to like find the groups and spaces in which this kind of team building and check-in might be helpful. Re-entry. I know I'm kind of racing the clock now. Re-entry is really jarring, especially when it happens 2, 3, 4 times a week. It's jarring for you as the person who is coming in and out of the home, but it's also jarring for anyone that you might share a home with, including your pets. So consider what's really important as you get home, both to you and anyone who's there. That might be rest, quality time, date nights, division of labor. Like, I'm really excited that someone else is going to walk the dog, that kind of thing. It is totally fair game as you're like looking at reentry. And I think reentry should be one of those conversation points with your partner, or your roommate or your family or anyone else. That I live alone, and I also talk about reentry with my friends in Portland. Hey, sometimes it takes me a few days to like get back, but then I don't have a lot of plans because I don't really live here. So I would really like, I'm going to be home during these dates and I would love, to do something, lets them know that I do want to be invited to things when I'm home. So again, be vulnerable, be open about sort of like what your needs are around reentry. When possible, plan flights and travel schedules that work for you. If you know that a 6 a.m. flight is going to ruin your next 2 days and you can avoid it, then like try to do that. I think really important to communicate expectations for your return home ahead of time. If you live alone, that still means you should set those intentions and expectations for yourself. But saying, hey, I'm going to need to sleep for a day and then I want to get right back into my routine, or I'm going to like flow right into my routine because my flight gets in at noon. So I still have that half day and I'm just going to keep it going. But also really making space for the other people in your life to communicate their expectations, especially if they are excited for you to come home to go on a date night. You might not know that because you've been at 4 different festivals in 4 days and on X amount of planes and trains to get there. So, being open about that kind of thing and letting both sides say, I need rest. I need quality time. Okay, can we look at Tuesday for this and Wednesday for that? And then spend time reflecting during reentry. So how did you feel about the shows that you just played? How did you feel about your team dynamics and communication? If you were unhappy, is that something that you can sit with and reflect on and learn from? Or is that something you want to bring to the team before the next festival weekend to see if you can do it better the next time? The active reflection is really, really critical, I think, as we're looking at sort of this forward motion of both self-improvement and team improvement and industry-wide improvement. It's like that reflection moment is really, really when you get to see what's working, what's not, where your frustration points are, and then kind of going back to the drawing board to say, well, is this on me? Should I be like looking to actually include breath work now? If I do feel myself getting like really stressed and worked up, that could be a strategy. Or is it because you're not communicating effectively enough as a team? There are ways that you can use reflections to make improvements the next time around, and kind of knowing the difference is an art. And give yourself grace in this process and stay curious about it. If you have any questions for us at Backline, now is a good time for them, but also you can always email or DM us just by showing up today. Step 1 of being curious, and really encourage everyone to, continue to do that throughout the season, even as the fatigue and the exhaustion hit you. There's still opportunities to learn and grow during this. Any questions or anything while we are all in the same room?
I'm so glad we had such a big group here today. It's so awesome.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you for the claps.
I had a question.
Okay.
What was that app about the breath work?
It's called Breathwork without the O. So it's WRK. But if you go to Backline's website, you can get a free pro subscription for a year. I will drop the link in the chat.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes, it's under our exclusive offers. It's great.
Very good. And thank you so much for your time. This was amazing.
Awesome.
Really appreciate everybody's time and energy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for showing up.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here.
You guys.
Fun one. I look forward to seeing y'all somewhere at a festival soon, hopefully. Take care.